right, today we are going to cover boundaries. So, boundaries is always a super fun topic because we all know we need them. And yeah, this is one of the hardest things for us to actually figure out what we need, why we need it, how to communicate it, and then to how to hold people accountable to it. So, with that, we are going to talk through a lot of this. I hope that you are willing to participate so we can hear what's going on in your world. This is part of the Emotional Intelligence Series Masterclass with Bloom. You can find these topics listed here and more in the Bloom Vault. We do record these sessions so that you can come back and play them back for any topics that you have. And not just me, there are a plethora of expert speakers that Bloom has, and there's so much amazing information in the Bloom Vault. Make sure to check that out. Or if you ever want a replay of something, just know that you can find everything there. So today, if you guys don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Claire Muselman. I'm a behavioral scientist at Drake University, and I make it my forte that whenever I find awesome and amazing information, I like to make it consumable and produce it for mass audiences so that you can find ways to make your life better. You can be happier, you can have more energy, you name it. This is like my gift to the world, and I love it. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. And today I do love audience participation. So if you've got some thoughts, do know that I love hearing them and love the feedback. So let's get to it. We've got a ton of fun stuff for today. So I want you to take a brief moment here. We're going to give you just a minute for you to take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And I want you to think about this. If you are willing to share, please throw it in the chat. But I wish I had better boundaries in this aspect of my life. I want you to think about that. What area of your life do you wish you had better boundaries? And all of us have an area, as much as we don't want to think we do. We all have an area we could improve upon, mainly so that you've got a good framework that you're aware of on how to start to apply some of this to your own story today. I went ahead and gave you guys mine. All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on. So if you've not thrown yours in the chat, just something to think about. For me, it is, I wish I was way better at being selfish. And that, I believe we have all women on today. Is that right? We do. I think that this can sometimes be not a woman thing. I don't want to coin it like that, but we tend to give everybody else whatever they need and don't spend a lot of time on our own. So just some things to think about while we go through today. So what do you guys think boundaries are? And if you want to pull yourself off a mute, Erin Quinn Stevens, I'm going to ask you, what are boundaries? Gotta love that you're here.
Yeah. So I feel like boundaries are limitations that you can set for yourself or others to respect something that you desire in your life.
Love that. Debbie, is there anything you would add to Erin's thoughts?
I think she did a really good job. I would say it's how you allow yourself to be treated by others and what you're willing to put up
Absolutely.
with.
Love that. Love that. Anyone else want to share? Sorry, I'm just going to pick on those two because I saw them and I know them. And that's the beauty of supporting your friends. All right, we will keep going. Okay, so the definition of a boundary, just in general, so let's level set, is a line that marks the limits of an area. So it's like a dividing line. And so when we try to relate that more so into human terms, this is that limit that you set for yourself. I want you guys to hear this. This is all about you. It is about what you will and will not tolerate or accept. So this is where, if you've ever heard the phrase, we teach people how to treat you, like you teach people how to treat you, unbelievably important because it's what you will or won't tolerate. If you feel disrespected by someone or you start to feel animosity towards them, this is a personal reflection time because you should have put them in their place the first time they crossed your boundary. And this gets really hard when we're thinking about this in terms of working with groups, working with organizations, friend circles. Family dynamics are really, really important when we start to think about this. And how do we teach this to our children's, our people that we're mentoring, anyone that with whom we have influence over? But this is where, like, you are able to have your own thoughts and your own feelings because they're yours. And this is what we look at when we put up boundaries, is to help put up guardrails or fences or whatever we want to call it as that boundary line, so that we don't feel invalidated by our own human experience. Again, when they're feelings, they're your feelings. They are true to you. They're your thoughts. They're true to you. And so this is where, when we have people that violate those, what kind of a boundary do you have for yourself? What happens if somebody crosses it? What do you do? Do you even know what you need? So let's dig into this a little bit more. Personal boundaries, this has been as we've seen, like the increase in self-awareness, self-help, self-leadership, self-regulation, a lot of those topics. This became a big avenue that had not necessarily been explored a lot prior to the 1980s. And this is where we start to look at, how do we communicate this? How do we identify what we need? And how do we assert that from our personal value standpoint, preserving and protecting ourselves so that we can still feel whole, protected, and the best version of ourselves? And I like to call this being the protagonist of your own story versus a victim of circumstance. And if you can think about that with whatever your own boundaries are, or if you can think about that from people that you know, we know who those victims of circumstance are. Everything always happens to them. Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, great example of a victim of circumstance. So my goal for you guys is to be the protagonist of your own story. But in order to do that, you have to get clear on what you will and won't tolerate from other people. And when you get clear on what you will and won't tolerate from other people, it also allows other people who see you leading by example. And as women, this is so important, because when we see other women stand true with their boundaries, it encourages us to be more brave and courageous for ourselves. And so this is something that I want you guys to just think about. So what do boundaries mean? Like, why do we need these? Aside from it's how other people teach, what happens when you don't have them? Anybody want to share an example of what they think?
You get burned out.
Yeah, that's an easy one. We get burned out because we can say yes to everything and then have nothing left for ourselves. And our energy is like a bank account. You start with a full bank account at the beginning of the day. Where are you going to spend your energy? Go ahead and keep going. So our purpose, the purpose of boundaries, it's self-care, plain and simple. You've got to take care of you before you can take care of anyone else. And so this is how you take care of you. What will you and will you not tolerate? A lot of this stems from your own personal experiences as well. So what is true for one person from a boundary standpoint might not be relevant or applicable to your life, or you might have something that's completely different, which is okay. You can also change your boundaries at any time. If you wanted to have a more stringent one yesterday and today you're feeling a little bit differently about that, that's okay. They're yours. You can change them at the drop of a hat. These also define roles in relationships, which can be a really big game changer. When we don't have appropriate boundaries in our relationships, we can feel those feelings of animosity and dehumanization towards other people. And so that's something you want to pay attention to. Like Debbie just said, burnout happens, and this can be a safeguard for us overextending ourselves. So if we're always saying yes to everything, we end up spreading ourselves really thin. Again, if you've got an energy bank account and you're spending it in all of these areas, what do you have left for you? This also allows you for behaviors. What will you and will you not tolerate from people? How people talk to you, what words they use. Things along those lines. One of my favorites with the communication of acceptable and unacceptable behaviors: if there's no agenda attached to a meeting, do not expect me to attend. No agenda, no attenda. And it is one of my favorite boundaries to have. If you want me to attend a meeting, I need to know what I'm going to contribute, why I need to be there, what decisions I need to have to be influencing, like what is my purpose? And if you just set time on a calendar, no, nope, we need to, like, one of my boundaries is do not waste my time. And so I need things very specific and set forth so that I understand what energy, what preparation I need to do to bring in. And boundaries also are the way that we ask people to show up by holding our needs. Again, you can have more than one emotional spot at the same time. We are multifaceted, multidimensional, multi-emotional people. So this is something that can be important, and you don't have to apologize for things. We, especially as women, apologize all the time for things that are just us existing and being. And so this is something that I want you to think about as well. So let's do this. We're going to get to know some of you guys, and I am hopeful. I'm not going to make you do breakout rooms. I really thought about this, but I want a couple of you to share. And if I need to voluntold, I will voluntold. Why do you personally need boundaries? And then I'm going to ask somebody else, why do you professionally need boundaries? And then we'll go to somebody else. How well are you at setting boundaries? And a fourth volunteer for how well are you doing in the execution of boundaries? So, Debbie, you kind of already gave us an example. So, I'm going to ask you, why do you personally need boundaries?
So I was adopted at birth and connected with my bio family little over 14 years ago. And as can be expected, there's some dysfunction, there in that biological side of my family. And
Sure.
a lot of drug abuse, a lot of things like that. And so it's taught me a lot about setting those boundaries and how important they are to protect myself. Because at times I have had family members that have lashed out at me, um, just very, very different than the way that I was raised in my adoptive
Sure.
family, let's just say. And that has its ups and downs as well too. But
Yeah.
it's really kind of taught me to stand up for myself and say, I'm not gonna allow you to treat me that way. And so we aren't gonna talk until you can figure out, that you can't treat me this way. And so in some cases it's meant just walking away completely. And in others it's
Yeah.
been a long period of time that goes by before they can kind of reflect and come back and say, hey, you're right. I'm sorry. And I won't do that again.
Yeah, because if they want to and they want to be a part of your life, they will. They'll make the
Mhm.
appropriate changes. And this is one of those beautiful things about boundaries. If people want to be in your life and they want to be a part of your energy or whatever you want to call it, they will. They'll make the behavioral changes.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're just getting a true depiction of who these people were. That was a beautiful, beautiful
Yep.
example. Thank you so much. Okay, Erin, I'm going to you next. Why do you professionally need boundaries?
I think so people know what to expect when you're working. Like maybe you have a
Yeah,
hard stop at 5 o'clock and they know that you're not going to be returning voicemails or emails after that time. Maybe you're spending time with your family, or maybe it is acceptable,
great
but I think
example.
you need to make it clear up front so that they know what the expectations are.
I love that. What a great example. Thank you. Okay, Kelly, how well are you at setting boundaries? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's all right. I need to work on it.
Perfect. You
I'm
know
not
what?
that
We all
good at
do.
it.
Welcome.
I usually
Welcome
try to
to
be
the
there for
front.
others. Thank you. And
Yeah,
having 3 children, I'm there for them a lot, plus my husband, and then of course other close friends. So sometimes I
yeah,
probably need to say, no, we can't make it. And we've talked about that, me and my husband before, about we tend to
sure.
try to be involved.
Very good. Awesome. Thank you. And Melissa, you are next on my list. So, how well are you in the execution of boundaries? So, how well are you at holding people to what you need?
Do you mean me, Melissa Diaz, or other Melissa? Just want to make
Oh,
sure.
well, Melissa, you are
Yeah,
already on the phone. So you're
yeah.
you're already
I was like,
online.
well, I
So why
can
don't you go
answer.
ahead and answer? Perfect.
I think because I'm answering the last question, right? How well are you doing in
Yes,
execution? So
correct.
I think I do an okay job with others. However, I think another angle at this is like boundaries with myself. And for me, I
Ooh,
I am very addicted to my phone. And I have set a boundary with myself to get off of my phone at like 8 p.m. and read a book instead, turn off technology. And I've been really good at it. I've actually been keeping myself accountable. So that's something that came to mind. for me for this question.
That is awesome and good work out of you. I listened to the Proof podcast yesterday. I listened specifically to the episode with Andrew Huberman, and he talks about the neuroscience of social media and our phones in general. And it's all about like the dopamine dumps. So very fascinating stuff. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you to all 4 of you guys for sharing for that. Okay, so let's talk about what boundaries look like, because sometimes we don't know how to set them because we don't know what they should look like. And they're going to be different for everyone. So take what you want, leave what you don't. Understand that you can mold these, shape these, shift these. We just have to get clear on what's going to be best for you based on where you are at this moment and your life experiences up to this point. So when we think about boundaries, an easy one to guess is skin. Like skin is a barrier that our body has for itself. I like to use skin as an example because if any of you have been pregnant, been around pregnant women, for some reason, people think it's okay to come touch your stomach. Thank goodness we have clothes and skin to like have those barriers. But again, that's a boundary. And so some things to just think about that are a little egregious, but they illustrate the point. Other examples of boundaries: words that you will or won't allow. So I grew up in a family where you could not use any type of swear word. That was a big boundary for my parents. Truth can be a boundary. Geographical distance. I mean, if you think about how close you live to your family, maybe that's a choice, maybe it's not. Things along those lines. Time, the emotional distance. Like when we talk about intimacy, and intimacy, not necessarily in a physical form, but the emotional intimacy that we have with other people. We all know those people that can tell you everything about themselves, but yet you never really know who they are. We've got boundaries with other people, and then the consequences that exist from these. So what other examples exist? What are some other boundaries? Melissa gave a wonderful example of phone. And Kelly, yes, I will gladly share that podcast. It's the Proof episode 205. And I will share that at the end. But what other examples are true to you? So Melly's got the phone. What else? What else do you think exists? I gave you the example of I won't attend meetings if you don't give me an agenda, which I realize not everyone can do that depending on what position you hold in an organization. I also think it's really rude of leaders to ever expect people to attend a meeting without an agenda. I would say it's leadership 101, but what else? What else exists? I'm going to piggyback off of Melly's. So when she talks about her phone, she's going to leave it in the room or wherever she does with it after 8 p.m. and goes to reading a book. Back in the day, when we had corded phones, if you weren't at home, people couldn't reach you. Or if you weren't at work, people couldn't reach you. So you could easily walk away and not have to feel like that instantaneous need to text back, to respond back, to answer the phone, you name it. So sometimes putting a boundary on your phone might be very helpful. And a lot of this starts with your own personal reflection. And this is where you analyze, all right, am I productive on this? Again, if we go back to what our energy bank is, how much time are you spending on your phone? Are you okay with that? Do you feel that your time is spent productively? Do you really need to check your email 72 times per day? Or could you block your time where you're going to do it 3 times per day? Or if somebody texts you, do you need to have that notification right away? Or can it wait till tomorrow? Or can it wait for a couple of hours? These are things that you have to figure out of what's going to work best for your situation, for you to be functioning at your best level. I'm terrible at checking my email all the time, and it's something that I want to get better at. And I know I have learned from Melly and Mari and Sam that it is really great if you block out time. Just, I'm going to check my email at 8 and I'm going to check my email at 2, and then that might be it for the day. The do not disturb setting is also a wonderful feature. So then you get to be that protagonist to your own story. You get to be the determination of when you open up that phone to see who's trying to reach out to you. So we have a lot more control than we like to give ourselves. We have a lot more agency. We just have to then flex our willpower muscles to be able to get that. And it is like working out a muscle. You get better at it the more you do it. So like the 8 p.m. thing, it gets easier the more you do it because you've got to build those willpower muscles that exist. Boundaries of family. Debbie gave us a great one. And this is true for a lot of people. Um, when we start to look at family, family can be really complicated and people have very different relationships. They ebb and flow over time. But when we start to look at boundaries with family, only you know what is going to work best for you. But we're going to talk about this in a little bit. We feel obligated a lot of times, especially when there's like a familial dynamic that exists. And I'm going to try and give you that permission to let you know that there is none of that actually exists within this. We also do a lot of obligation. We feel an obligation to things. We feel like we have to, need to, should. There's a ton of dark psychology on this, on how manipulation works and how people are very good at manipulating other people. So this is where we kind of want to hijack our own brain of being like, okay, can I do this? Does this work? What do we actually need to do versus these feelings of obligation? And sometimes those feelings just exist within ourselves. People are very respectful of other things. And if you put into a position like, if it's a birthday party this weekend and you just don't have the energy, maybe you're maxed out, you've been traveling all week, whatever that looks like, it's okay to say no. A lot of times we think people are going to take things uber personally where they don't. Give you the grace. We all have lives. We all have other things that are going on. And if people don't give you that grace, then that's telling you who they are. And maybe you want to reassess that to begin with. So we're going to stop feeling obligated. We are going to take a moment and just breathe. So I'm going to give you guys, this is your homework assignment between now and the weekend, which means you've got about 48, 72 hours, depending on when yours starts. I want you to say no to something, whether it be to yourself, where you're like, I'm going to pick up that phone again and check for texts or check my email or browse on social, whatever it is. I want you to say no to yourself. Or if there's an obligation you are dreading this weekend, maybe it's going to the gym, maybe it's going to a family thing, whatever that is, I want you to try and say no to something for yourself and do something for you with that time. We are constantly talking about the need for mental health awareness and what we should be doing to help improve our own mental health. When you say no to things for other people, you're saying yes for something for yourself or something that you want to go spend time doing. And that can be even doing nothing. So I want you to think about one activity, just one, over the next 48 to 72 hours where you can say no so that you can say yes to yourself. This is all about freedom because, again, when we look at our own agency of control, everything that we talk about in boundaries helps us establish our own freedom from within. And if you need a good reason, you can say, well, Dr. Claire said so. And if I end up having your in-laws call me, I'll know why. So what is within our own control? I talk about you guys are your agency of your own control. We are all the agency of our own control. We're the protagonists to our own story. So when we start to look at this deeper, what is actually within our boundaries? What is stuff that we can control and what do we have the right to control? Our feelings are number one. If you feel a certain way, people can't tell you you don't feel that way. They are your feelings. They are what is true to you. This is where, if you've ever done any type of therapy or couples therapy, or you've tried to work in groups, and when people try to express their feelings, they say, I feel blank when blank happens. This is because it's true. You can't argue with the way somebody feels in a situation. So know that your feelings are completely yours and they are true to you. Your own attitudes and beliefs. Contrary to popular opinion, this is a heavy self-respect thing. Your attitude is determined by you. The things that you choose to believe are a choice. You get to choose whether you want to believe those or not. Sometimes we are raised with generational programming. We are raised in specific belief patterns. You get to choose whether that continues or not. You have the choice and the power when it comes to your attitude and your belief system. So just because you were raised a certain way doesn't mean you have to continue that on. And this is something that's also true when we are working with other people. An organizational culture at one space won't be the same as it is at another. And so what do we want to choose to adapt and believe? Because just the way you've always done it doesn't mean that it needs to stay that way. So think about that. We are also completely in control of our own behaviors. I really love the phrase, if they wanted to, they would. Same thing goes true for you and me. If we wanted to, we would. if I wanted to go make myself better, let's go from a physical aspect, I will get myself to the gym. I will do the things that I need to, because if I wanted to, I would. And this is where we've got to figure out, where does self-sabotage come in? And that's a whole topic for a different day. But when we come into our behaviors, we're in charge of that. We will give ourselves, if we want to, we will, or we'll find an excuse, or we'll find something else that will self-sabotage it along the way. But we're in control of it. And then it's flexing that willpower muscle for how we regulate ourselves. But this is all within our own scope of control. And when we start looking at this from a self-leadership perspective, it's really important that we figure out, what are we willing to tolerate and not tolerate from ourselves. So this is a big one to think about. We also have the power of choice. If I choose to do something, like if I choose to spend 4 hours scrolling on Instagram watching stories, I actively chose to not do other things in that 4 hour window. So this is where the power of choice becomes really, really, really apparent. And well, that's just an example. Like, I choose to stay up later reading sometimes, or I choose to continue working later than I probably should. But that is a choice that I make. So then if I'm tired the next day, and here's my beautiful Starbucks to prove that, that was a choice I made for myself, because I have that control and that agency over myself to be able to say, I'm going to do this with this time. And whether we consciously believe in choice or not, the things that we are engaging in are actively being chosen over those that are not. So, I mean, food's an easy one too. If you're going to choose the brownie over the salad, which I would choose the brownie over the salad too, but we're always making choices. And so this is where you come back to self-control, self-regulation with your behavioral patterns. A lot of behavior stems through the power of choice. Things to think about. Also, our values. A lot of times we don't get clear on what we truly value. We say the basics, like everyone says that they value family. Everybody says that they value loyalty, trust. There's a lot of these that we say, but what is really true to you? What do you need the most? I can tell you loyalty is not my number one. So I, like Debbie, am also adopted. And so when it comes to having ride or die friends, that's a number one value for me. And when I look at that, that's loyalty at an infinite type of role, because of not having that constant need when I was growing up. So I'm very well aware of that. But what does that look like for you? What are your values? Where do you put your most importance? And not only can you identify what those words are for you, maybe 3 to 5, what does it mean? If you say that you value love, what does love look like? And we've got to get specific, because this is the lens which you make decisions. You filter your decision making, so your choices, which impact your behaviors, through these values that you have established. So, what is true to you? What is value? What do you value? What are those, and what do those look like? These are not my pets, but I do also very much value the unconditional love from our pets at home. Then we look at limits. So we also have limits. We all have these. We know when we get maxed out. Sometimes we have this inner voice that is screaming at us, and we dull it. We dull it by engaging too much in work. We dull it by alcohol. We dull it by drugs. We dull it by overexercising. We do a lot of things to quiet that gut instinct and not paying attention to our physiological limits. This is important. Your body is giving you cues all the time. It is your choice whether you listen. So you pay attention and start feeling. Like, your body gives you feelings. When you meet people, there's an energy exchange. When an event happens or a circumstance presents itself, we get feelings from that. And you get this gut instinct or intuition, and there's a physiological effect that happens, which we need to be good at paying attention to. Other limits can include, if you think that you are on the extrovert side, or maybe you're an introvert side, it tends to operate like a spectrum. And sometimes we get burned out pretty quickly in this arena. If you are an introvert and you're doing lots of extroverting for that week, maybe for work or projects or interactions, or maybe it's a family reunion type, because here comes summer and lots of us are doing those type of things. We've got to be aware of our own limitations of what we need to keep ourselves in that healthy balance. And these come from boundaries. Our talents, these are also ours. What makes you uniquely you? What do you like? Where do you feel flow in life? Where can you get lost in time when you are working on things? Maybe it's creating pottery, maybe it's writing music. What are you talented in? Those are your talents. And then do you do anything with that? I love the idea of flow because I think that talent is one of those things that we get lost in. We try to look at it a lot when we're children and then it tends to disappear. But when do you get lost in the moment where time flies by? How does that make you feel? Talents usually ignite a passion. They help get you really excited about something. And so talents are specific to you. Our thoughts are also completely in our control. So, number one thing possible, make your mind a beautiful place to be. And we are going to do a masterclass series on this later this year. I think it's actually in November, where we're going to talk about like, how do you actually make sure that your mind and your internal space is in the best thoughts. We're trying to make this a beautiful place for our mind to be. So actively engaging in the positivity, that as much positivity as you can within yourself, because if you can't show up for you, what do we expect other people to do? So we want to make our mind this beautiful place of self-support. And again, this is not always easy. We get conditioned by a lot of things. So if you struggle with this and the thought capacity, I want you to think about what television shows you watch. What do you stream? Because that's an easy one. We are getting mixed messages on a regular basis through media. What social media channels do you follow? In the social media world, are you constantly doing the comparison theory? What books do you read? What music do you listen to? All of this impacts how you are thinking about yourself and the world around you. What news do you pay attention to? Who do you surround yourself with? What are the people that are around you? Are they growing, forward-thinking individuals that want to have intellectually stimulating conversations, or are they people that want to gossip about what's going on in the neighborhood? What's the scuttlebutt going on in the family? Think about that, because that directly impacts the thoughts that you have. It is like food that nourishes yourself, and it can be great nourishment that makes things really happy and makes you in a very good equilibrium, or it can be not so great and it can be toxic. So things to think about. Our desires, what you want. What do you want for yourself? When is the last time that you thought about that and really clarified and got clear on what do you want for you? What do you desire out of life? A lot of times we get into the, I think I'm supposed to do this. I can tell you, I remember doing that in my 20s. I was like, okay, I'm supposed to get married. I'm supposed to get a house. I'm supposed to become a mom. This is what I'm supposed to do. I never actually thought about what I wanted from myself, what kind of a career I wanted for me, what kind of a mom I wanted to be, what kind of a family I wanted to have. And this is where I encourage you to get clear on what you desire. And again, this comes from a physiological standpoint too. You can tell when you're on that road of, yes, this is what I want. I want to keep encouraging this. I'm going to go from this. Or it doesn't feel great. And this is where we kind of get numb and we just get into like the rat race of life where it's just this constant hamster wheel. So I'm asking you to wake up and get clear on exactly what you want for yourself. Love. Love is also something within our control. What do you allow from other people? What kind of love do you need? If you don't know your number one language and your 5 love languages, I absolutely encourage you to check that out. A lot of it can stem from childhood, of what you got as a child, what you didn't. What do you need for yourself? Since you've already told you guys this, a couple of things like the meetings and agendas and whatnot, quality time is my number one love language. I don't like it when people waste my time. It is big time language. And I like using love languages in organizations too, because I think it can tell you a lot about how people want to be recognized and validated, because a lot of this just isn't about personal relationships. It's also professional relationships and organizational team dynamics. But love is very specific to you and you can control what that it looks like for you. So things to think about, and who you love. So what are the benefits of having boundaries? Everything is beneficial when you have boundaries. What's in it for you? The world of possibility and freedom. So it wards off burnout. Debbie talked about this right at the beginning. This is where you will be burning on an empty fuel system if we do not have some type of boundaries in place. Again, if at the beginning of that day, when you've got your bank account or you've got that empty jar or that jar, it's full. So where are we going to give the money? Where are we going to give that energy? Where are you going to choose to place it? It helps you improve your emotional health. It can help you control your mood. Again, if you're setting yourself up for success by, I'm only going to check my email a couple times this week or today, excuse me, I'm only going to have this much time of social media. I'm only going to do whatever that those increments are. It's going to help you set yourself up for success, which then if you don't feel like you're running ragged going into all these different directions, can be really helpful for yourself. I have a phrase on one of my walls in my bedroom that says, get addicted to the feeling of having your shit together. And I love that phrase because I think it's so important to understand how much control we can have when we are showing up for ourselves. And that can be achieved through some of these boundaries. You can have improved relationships. When people know your expectations, this can be really helpful. And we tend to think that people understand and have a lot more information than they don't. Being clear is kind, and being upfront with people and really giving extra communication can help, because we tend to overestimate what people automatically know and then under communicate. And then there ends up being a miss kind of on that expectations level. But if you can showcase and give some boundaries about what you will and won't accept and what you will and won't tolerate, there's less animosity, less resentment, and you still have that power of choice in your relationships. How much time do you want to spend with these people? Who leaves you feeling energized and amazing? Who doesn't? If you dread going to lunch with someone, maybe that's a pretty big indication that that should not be somebody that you have lunch with. And it's okay. Relationships evolve. There's usually a reason, a season, a time period. You sometimes have these amazing relationships that extend. Maybe you meet at work and then they transition into something more powerful. There's just so much that goes on in here. And so this is really like an expectation setting when we're looking at the improvement of relationships. You can also give clear expectations of what you expect from others. If you're a leader, this needs to be outlined for your people up front. Responsibility, where does it lie? What are the expectations? How are you going to be held accountable? And then actually holding people accountable. Easiest way to put this, do what you say you're going to do. If we all did that to ourselves, to our family, to our friends, to our teens, to our organizations, the world would be so much better off, because we would be holding ourselves accountable and accountable to the people with whom we've said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get up and go to the gym tomorrow morning. So I am not going to hit snooze on my alarm. I'm the only person that can control that. So having clear expectations and doing what you say you're going to do is pretty powerful when we start to look at this from a boundary standpoint. You can have decreased stress as a result, because you're being proactive. You're setting yourself up for success. You're establishing accountabilities and expectations. You know how you're going to hold yourself accountable. You know how you're going to hold other people accountable. You are the protagonist. You are taking all of the agency of control of your life and doing what you want with it. Here comes that freedom and flexibility, and it's being proactive at its finest. Self-respect. And I keep this slide clean because respecting yourself is the most important thing. The relationship that we have with ourselves is so powerful. It sets the tone for everything of what you will and won't tolerate with other people, organizations, dynamics, basically the outside world. So having that self-respect, flexing that self-willpower, showing up for yourself. If you're a great friend to everyone else, start by being a really great friend to yourself. Because when we give to everybody else, we neglect that number one person who we are supposed to be taking care of. We are supposed to take care of ourselves, and then we can take care of others. We can do whatever we need to help other people, etc. But self-respect is at its core the most important. And by giving yourself self-respect, then you get respect from other people. And this is that whole lead by example. When we see people stay true to their boundaries about what they will and won't tolerate, especially from other people, where they stand up for things that they believe in or causes that they're passionate about, and they start to advocate, this gets people excited. And when we see one person do it, this is where we get really knowledgeable about, okay, I can do this. If they can do that, I can do this too. I can show up for me. I can make small incremental changes that are going to help me be more happy, successful, self-reliant, self-accountable, you name it, all the stuff. It also helps promote autonomy. There is a difference between isolation and solitude. So isolation is what we get a little bit more nervous about when people start to isolate, because it usually means that there's some type of shutting down going on. We're withdrawing from things, where solitude is learning to spend time with yourself and really embarking on that relationship with you, reading, journaling, mindfulness, activities with yourself, figuring out what talents you have. What do you like to do? What are your hobbies? What do you do for you? And it can help explore that relationship with yourself versus isolation, where you're trying to just back away from people, you're shutting down, you're trying to just kind of distance yourself because of things that have transpired. It also helps you with your improved self-care capabilities. So think about the snowball effect. If you start to do one thing, and then you can do another thing, and then you can do another thing for yourself. If you're saying no, when you start to say no and you realize that the world doesn't end if you didn't attend the birthday party, or you said no to going to dinner that one night, or you didn't go to that meeting because you didn't see the point of being there, and you start to get that amazingness that comes from it, because you get this sense of empowerment and there's this energy burst that comes from this. It really gives you that snowball effect of, oh my gosh, I can really be the agency of control in my own life. This is fun. And when the world doesn't end, it's where you can really pick up some momentum. And this is physics at its finest point. Then there's the mirror effect. Okay, when you start to really take a look at yourself, like what is true to you? Where does your self-awareness lie on this? Are you doing great at everything? Are you not? Where are your gaps? How do you do this? I like to do a one-on-one with myself every so often. That's like, okay, where are we at with this? How are you feeling in these areas of your life? And then be honest, because if you can't be honest with yourself, what are you doing? You should not be judging yourself. Like, this is where you take this, and we start with that internal self before we can go external. And it makes the biggest difference. Oops. All right. Oop. There we go. All right, so moving on, let's talk about the fact that this isn't easy. What makes this hard? Anyone want to share? Why is this hard for us to do?
A lot of times you have to set boundaries for people that don't respect boundaries.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very true one. We've got people that just aren't going to respect them. Anybody else? If it was easy, we wouldn't be here right now. Everyone would do this. We would respect each other's boundaries. We would just know it's not personal, but it's just that person, their needs. It's amazing to me how much I hear that people take things so personally when it's like, it doesn't have anything to do with you. I need this for me, not you. I need it for me. Fear is a huge one. We get very fearful of the unknown. So this is kind of like, all right, if I'm going to only check my email maybe twice or 3 times a day, let's say I'm going to do 8, 2, and then 6, or whatever. I'm just throwing those times out there. I get nervous that, oh my gosh, what if somebody needs something in the interim time and I can't respond right within 30 seconds? It's amazing when the fear can subside because the world didn't end. And then you realize that you're in more control. But we have a very big fear of the unknown. Our brain wants to be able to control the narrative of stories. And when there is not a direct line from point A to point B, our brain is going to make up a story to get to point B. So this is where it's normal to be fearful. It's normal to have those type of fears of not knowing what's coming next. But until you test it and you take these little baby steps, then you can fill that point A to point B with objective findings. Like, okay, so I didn't check my email from 8 to 2 and nothing went wrong. Cool. All right. So now you've got a different narrative for point A to point B. And you start to do this with little incremental steps, and it will help. Like, all right, I did not go to the birthday party. And then if people don't care, it's like, oh, all right, I'm good. I actually got a lot done, or did this or whatever, or asking people for space. Like, I just need a day when I come back from a trip to get my stuff squared away. It's that fear of the unknown until you can get some objectivity around getting from point A to point B. When we look at fear, we really worry about this in this type of a landscape surrounding boundaries. We have a fear of hurting other people's feelings. Of course, even if it jeopardizes our own, we are very fearful of hurting other people. We have a fear of abandonment or separateness, and this is something that stems from childhood. So if you haven't gone down that road, Godspeed. It's very fun. You can have a great time with that, but it's better. Everything is better when you start to address this stuff. Sometimes we have a fear of wishing to be dependent upon another. Again, that kind of stems from some childhood stuff. We have a fear of other people's anger. We have a fear of being punished as a result. We have a big fear of being ashamed. Shame is such a powerful word. It is a powerful emotion and feeling. And when you attach fear to that, that can be really, really, really powerful from this dynamic. We also have a fear of being seen as bad or selfish when self-respect is so important. And then we also have a fear of being over strict or critical. So things along those lines. When we are raised, I said there's a couple things that kind of stem from childhood. When we look at childhood versus adulthood, we tend to not allow children the ability to say, no, I disagree. I will not. I choose not to. Stop that. It hurts. It's wrong. That's bad. I don't like it. If you think about it this way, go back to like when you were a kid and your family might have encouraged you to like go hug strangers and be like, I don't want to hug people. Like, I'm not a touchy feely person. I don't like the hugging stuff. So to push people into something that violates boundaries isn't great. But if we think about why are we at this space where we're talking about how do we reset boundaries, it's because what kind of freedom were you given to say, like, I don't disagree with you, mom. Like, I can tell you that if I would have said, no, I disagree, I will not, I choose not to. So my mom growing up, it would have not ended well. But even if it was a boundary that was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to go spend time with that person, or I don't want to go be around there. These are where we look at agencies of choice and control. And this might help explain why some things are more difficult or more fear-based for you. But when we start to look at childhood versus adulthood and the things that we're trying to claw back, where think about if you want to say to your boss, like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to work late this weekend. That's not happening. I have other plans, and that is not within my job description. Or we think about things and how it translates through different narratives. You can understand where some of this comes from. It can be a very heavy topic, but something I wanted to touch on. We've got a fear of family. Like there, when it comes to families, we feel like we owe our families things, but it's interesting because families can be the easiest people that cross those boundaries because they think they can, because they're your family. And this is a whole nother kind of conversation, but it's something that you can explore where if you wouldn't expect it of them, or you would honor if it was in the same capacity, think about that on the flip side. And this is where if they really respect you, they will respect those boundaries. If they believe that you are worthy and valuable and whatnot, then they're going to respect that. And if they're not, then you've got to figure out what you want to do with that. And we'll talk about the plan here in a few minutes. Culture, the way culture, we've got our own culture. We have a social media culture. You might have a spiritual culture. You might have a religious culture. You might have a generational culture. Those can be very, very intertwined and can also explain our behavioral patterns up to this point. Now, you get to choose if you want to continue that or not. But being aware of that and understanding that it exists as a result of can be very important. So we're going to be done lying to ourselves here, and I'm going to give you some myths that we're going to debunk, and then we're going to unlearn, and then we're going to talk about the plan. So stay with me, and I'm going to go a little bit faster on these. So if I set boundaries and being selfish, no, you are not. If you are not setting boundaries, you are actively disrespecting yourself. Our needs are our responsibility. That is your number one. Boundaries equal disobedience. No, tell the truth about your motives. Boundaries are to keep you safe. Saying no gives you the opportunity for you to say yes. It's not being disobedient as long as you have truth behind your motives. By setting boundaries, others will hurt me. Allow people to show you their true character and how much they respect you. I literally was thinking about this the other day in a relationship that I was in a long time ago, that if I would have just trusted my gut that very first moment, that very first day, and got up and walked out, my life would be completely different, whole different trajectory. But I knew that person's true character in that moment, and I completely dismissed that inner voice inside myself. How many times have you done that for you? I was thinking about this. If I would write letters to my younger self, what I would have said is just listen to that little person inside of you and get up and leave. Or friendships that it's like that person crossed you. Well, they crossed you because you failed to put them in line the first time that they crossed your boundary. And just go on. There's this big, beautiful world, like the things that we would say to our younger self with this. By setting boundaries, I'll hurt others. You teach people how to treat you. And this helps teach people how to be responsible for their own lives. You are not responsible for other people's behavior and lives around this. Things to think about. Boundaries mean I'm angry. First of all, anger is a secondary emotion, so not true. And boundaries set an expectation that actually decreases anger. Things to think about. When others set boundaries, it injures me. Remember, this isn't personal and it's not always about you. So when we think about it in the flip side, boundaries cause feelings of guilt. Okay, so I want to think about this guilt thing. I'm going to use some dark psychology for this. When someone gives you a gift, it means there are no strings attached. So you owe people nothing when a gift is given. We have this innate feeling that comes that we have to owe people something. If somebody does something for us, or if somebody gifts us something, we are then indebted to them, or we owe them some type of non-existent debt. No, it is time to refrain our minds. The only thing you owe people is gratitude. And if we can start to rewire our mind around this, it can be really powerful. Boundaries are permanent. No, they are not. You can change your mind at any point. You know why? Because they're yours. You can make a different decision. You can have a different choice. You can have a different feeling whenever. So if you want to recreate yourself, do it. You owned your boundaries. They don't own you. And your no is always subject to you. What was a no yesterday might be a yes today because you've got the time, the capabilities, the capacity. What you tolerated before does not mean you have to tolerate it moving forward. So now we're going to unlearn a few things. So we've got the second component to boundaries, right? So we've debunked myths. We've talked about boundaries. We know what they are. We know why they're hard. So now we're going to unlearn a few things. We're going to unlearn societal standards of beauty and diet culture, because this one comes, I should look like this. I should be doing this. I should have a life like this. What makes you feel amazing? What makes your body feel great? What makes your energy levels high? We're going to unlearn seeking external validation over self-assurance. Learn how to make yourself proud. It is the ultimate flex in life. If you can be proud, we spend so much time trying to make our parents proud, make our kids proud, all of these things that exist in life. Our boss is proud of us, etc. What do you need to do to show up for yourself and make yourself proud? You owe you. And at the end of the day, end of every day, I hope you can look yourself in the mirror and be like, yeah, girl, or yes, sir, I got this. We're going to unlearn distracting from the hard feelings instead of processing them. If we can name an emotion and really drill down into what am I feeling? I said anger is a secondary emotion. There's usually something that is more tied to that: shame, guilt, feelings of dehumanization, whatever those might be. You've got to figure out, what is it? What is that? A lot of times it's hurt. And so if you can embrace that, get to that core and process it, then you can move on. We're going to unlearn making ourselves smaller to fit in social situations. If you need to be smaller to fit in a social situation, stop going to it. There's a no. No, I'm not going to that because I don't want to feel smaller. Stay big, bold, and beautiful. We want you to be your very best version of yourself. And the people who respect that will start to circle around you as well. We're going to unlearn pretending that we're fine instead of asking for support. Sometimes we need to ask for help, period. We're going to unlearn ignoring our own boundaries to please other people. No, self-respect first, always. From this moment moving forward, your boundaries come before your people-pleasing for other people. We're going to unlearn believing that your worth depends on your productivity. Remember that how you leave people feeling is what matters most. We're going to unlearn sacrificing our voice and beliefs to avoid conflict. You've got to figure out how to stand up for yourself before you can stand up for anything else. So what will you and will you not tolerate? And then the next piece, if you want to make a difference, the next time you see someone being cruel to another human being, take it personally. Take it personally because it is personal. Silence is a stance. I'll leave that one there. We're going to unlearn not celebrating my accomplishments because others have better ones. No, you are the most unique version that you can possibly be of yourself. Be proud of your accomplishments. Make yourself proud. Celebrate you. It's that simple. So 3 steps to setting boundaries that we're going to chat on while we wrap up today's session on this. Step 1, you've got to identify, what are your boundaries? What do you want to accept? Figure out what those are for you. Maybe it's, I don't permit others to curse at me. So when someone does that, you ask them to not. Or I don't allow my employer to regularly make me work on weekends, taking away from my family time, my personal time, whatever time that is for you. But identify, what are those boundaries that you need to set? And this doesn't just have to be with other people. It can also be the boundaries with you, like maybe your phone. Step 2, you've got to communicate them. You can't just set them and not talk to people about them. There's no one size fits all for handling this, but if you're going to communicate them to somebody else, and maybe this goes with yourself and you journal this out, is now about time? Okay, when you scheduled that meeting without an agenda, I felt like violated, whatever words you want to use. I felt disrespected because you're not going to give me the intention behind it. You're not going to tell me why I need to be there. So I have a personal rule, well, where I only allow or I don't allow. Like, I only allow meetings that have an agenda attached to them. If you continue to throw time on my calendar, I will need to decline because there is no purpose outlined in my attendance of these. I hope we can make this work and keep our relationship moving forward, whatever that's going to look like. And again, vague script, just something to try and get your mind around it. When you're communicating these, remember, we are being hard on an issue, not on a person. So be hard on a problem, soft on a person. You want to be clear and direct about your expectations, especially when this is you. Remain open to compromise, all right? We're not going to be perfect, and allowing some grace is helpful. And if you need help, get a third party, friends, somebody you trust, mentor, to help you with support and accountability. And then step 3, you have to enforce it. So you can either change your boundary, you can leave it the way it is, or you can accept the way somebody treated you. So you can either change it, walk away and leave it, or accept the way that person treated you. You get to pick how you choose to enforce these. And if tomorrow it's different, that's okay too. So remember, you've now attempted to change the situation with the boundary setting discussion. You either leave that relationship or accept the boundary violation. And where do you fall on that self-respect calendar then, or that self-respect continuum with that? No adult relationship is ever worth sacrificing your own self-worth, whether it be an organization, a boss, a mentor, a familial relationship, a friendship, you name it. They might have been there for you for years and years and years, but no adult relationship is worth sacrificing your self-worth. And that's especially true with that relationship with yourself. So final thoughts, that 3-step framework. I understand that it is a lot easier said than done. We are all a work in process, but staying angry or letting people violate your boundaries is the hardest of all. You are worthy of being stood up for. And this is true today in 2024 and always. So it happened before, we're talking about today moving forward. You are worthy of this.